And also filing legal challenges against the results in some of the states.
And WGN political analyst Paul Lisnek is live with more on this incredibly close race for the White House. Paul, two candidates, four states in the hunt right now: Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, and Nevada. Which one are you watching most closely, and who do you think is going to come out with their votes first?
So, Ray, had we had this conversation this morning, it would have been a different answer than you're going to get from me tonight. Because what has been happening during this day on a very steady basis is Pennsylvania is going from a state where Donald Trump was up yesterday like 600,000 votes, and now he is up in Pennsylvania by 42,000. It is the counting of mail-in ballots that are coming in, and it is basically projected based on the area it's coming in from, which is Philadelphia and the surrounding suburbs, and Pittsburgh and the surrounding suburbs. So those are Democratic areas. We could expect to, by the time you wake up this morning, if not actually earlier than that, sort of midnight, 1 o'clock, find out that Joe Biden is then in the lead. Not necessarily by much, it won't be called, but that he is in the lead. The other state I'm watching is Georgia. That was a state that went, well, that's going to go Trump's way, and at this point, President Trump leading by only 1,700 votes. That's it. And the votes coming in are still to come in from Clayton County, which is where the airport is, and Atlanta, and also Savannah. Democratic areas. You will also wake up to find that Vice President Biden is leading in Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia, it's neck and neck tied right at this particular second. And traditionally a Republican state, Georgia is starting to go very blue. Let's talk a little bit about the two Senate races that are going on there, that now they have to go to a runoff race. We've been hearing a lot about these. Democrat Jon Ossoff and Senator David Perdue, they had a very contentious debate a little while ago when Democrat Ossoff called Senator Perdue, has said he did a lot of corruption in his time as a senator. And then you've got Senator Kelly Loeffler and Reverend Raphael Warnock, both going to runoffs in January.
So the Warnock race, absolutely. Warnock, by the way, is Reverend Warnock. He actually is the Reverend at the St. Baptist Ebenezer Church where Martin Luther King preached. So that's his area. He will go against Republican Senator Kelly Loeffler. And you're right about the other ones. Jon Ossoff has presented an incredible challenge to Senator David Perdue. That line you're talking about, Mike, was when he basically said it's not just that you're a crook, Senator, but it's that you are open about it. And he just went on from there. A very tough
no
thing.
retort to that either.
Perdue never debated him again.
Yeah, he had no retort.
He canceled the debates after that. So here's the bottom line. Right. The bottom line to it is, Georgia is the only state in the country where you not only have to hit 50% in the primaries, several states do that, but you have to hit 50% in the general election, the only state. And in that situation, the Loeffler race, nobody's hitting 50, it's going to the runoff, and Perdue was actually at 50% earlier today. He's now below that number, and it's seen, again, because of where the votes are coming in, looks like he will stay below that number, which means January 5th, you'll have a race for 2 Senate races, and that ultimately, if things go the way we expect, will determine the balance and control of the Senate. Right. Who would have thought you'd be looking at Georgia on that question?
Last 30 seconds or so here, Paul. Let's talk about the legal challenges from the Trump campaign. In Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Georgia, the judge has essentially swatted them down. I mean, they could be appealed, but what do you think is going to happen in Pennsylvania that could affect the outcome of this election, or could it, in your view?
I don't think anything's going to happen in Pennsylvania. The Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court, has already said, continue doing what you're doing. We'll take a look at this one later after the election, so it's really not going to go anywhere. There will be cases filed all over the place. President Trump has made that clear, but unless you have proof of fraud and unless the changes that you're alleging could make a difference, then the lawsuits won't go anywhere. It does not appear at this stage, as we look at things, when we don't even know all the results, that any of these lawsuits would come to much fruition. Too early to say that, but we will face litigation certainly in the days and weeks to come.
Paul, yes or no? Do you think the presidential outcome will have an effect on the runoff races, those senators' runoff races in Georgia?
I think I can't say yes or no. I think there's going to be a ton of money spent in Georgia. It could split when the time comes, but everybody's going to be, after they do some stimulus stuff, they're going to, both parties in Georgia, spending tons of money.
All right. Thank you, sir.
But things are turning blue, Micah, so it could be a yes.
Okay.
Okay, you got a qualifier there. Paul, thank you much. Always great to talk with you. Appreciate it.